Okay, beautifuls. I am here about 5 minutes early. I am setting up. I am sitting outside, so I'm going to be leaving my camera off. I've taken some. So actually, the noise that you hear is the air conditioner and such. You may hear some cars. So I'm going to try to talk loudly. Yeah. And try to adjust now. So if you come here and you're watching the replay, go ahead and fast forward. I'm actually going to pause the recording. How about that? Okay, beautiful goddesses. It is 8. I am going to start. Moving forward, I'm going to try to open most of our classes with a card reading and a mini meditation to help us center. So today I'm using the Moonology messages. It's what I'll be using probably for the next 2 weeks. And we got 2 cards. So we have Moon Circle support, which is ideal. If you are watching this, I don't know, through another platform, this is your sign that you need to be a part of a circle. Okay, because moon circles, the support card is about moon circles. It's a group of women who come together. Spirit is saying you need to ask for some help and some support from other females. Get to know other females if you already have your membership, but you don't post, you don't comment, you don't ask questions. It is time for that to be over. Okay. In addition to the support card, we also have new beginnings. So new beginnings, usually we have a full moon, a new moon coming up really soon. So that's the start of a new beginning. It's a new cycle. It's a fresh start. If there is something that you have been wanting to do, it's saying to go for it. Now is the time. If you started and you've got a really good momentum, this is your yes confirmation. Okay. And to continue with what you're doing. So that being the good vibe of this class, I'm going to go ahead and I'm also, let me see, I'm going to turn on the chat. So if people start to come into the class, you can leave questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go through the class. As always, the replay will be posted inside of University under our feminine energy, feminine frequency school section. Okay, so I want to let's do some breath work. The whole purpose of this class, right, is to engage your feminine energy. I'm going to guide you through some embodiment exercises, clearing some energetic blocks, activating your intuitive power, and syncing with your magnetic frequency of pleasure. Pleasure, flow, divine feminine energy. That is our intention today. And like I said, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. So our feminine energy is our sacred intelligence. It's how you magnetize, how you create, it's how you heal, which is why it is so important. Yes, you have the ability to heal to a degree without being tapped into your feminine energy. But when you are tapped in, tuned in, turned on, and you are utilizing and engaging your feminine energy, your magnetism is through the roof. you are able to create or manifest, and you are able to heal. That healing process also is about releasing trauma, past pains, and that is really how we, as Divine Feminine, break generational curses. It is a strong arm method if you are trying to break generational curses without being in and embodying and activating and using your feminine frequency. So right now I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And when you breathe, we're going to take several deep breaths actually, but when you breathe in, I want you to breathe into your heart and let it flow down to your womb space. That's the inhale. And then exhale through your mouth. So you're going to inhale, close your eyes, take a deep breath into your womb and into your heart. And exhale out the mouth. 3 more times. And repeat after me. I choose to awaken my feminine frequency and embody my divine radiance. So what I'm going to teach next is a little bit of breath work and a little bit of movement. Okay. It's a 3-part breath. So it's belly, ribs, and chest is how you fill your body with air and out through the mouth. So when you exhale, you're either saying or shh, right? However, it is more natural for you. So you breathe in, and this is a little counterintuitive to how some people breathe right now. But when you inhale, your belly should expand, right? So you're inhaling and feeling the belly. You're inhaling, feeling the ribs. Inhale, feeling the chest. So you feel all 3 rise one after the other in that inhale. And then we're out through the mouth. So we're going to do 5 rounds of this. When you are working with your feminine energy, when you are trying to get in touch with, trying to activate, trying to get back to, use this breath. Okay? Fill your belly, your ribs, your chest, and then out through your mouth. And you're filling through your nose. So we're going to do 5 rounds. Inhale in. Last time. This is what I call the cleansing breath. And you use this tool to reduce your tension, to reduce a high emotional state, and when you have stuck energy. So stuck energy can be, even if your mind, if you've ever had an experience and your mind is on repeat, so you're thinking like, oh, I should have did it this way, I should have did it that way, or you're caught in worry. What if they're okay, they're not answering the phone, what should I do? Whenever your mind is on a loop, that it's stuck. So this breath helps you brings you out of being stuck. It reduces tension and it helps reduce your emotional state. Now, I am outside and I am sitting on my rebounder actually for this exercise. So since we're all doing cameras off tonight, the next segment is about movement and flow. So hopefully you're going to be comfortable doing this exercise together or doing it with me as I describe it. Movement and flow is crucial. It is critical for you to activate your feminine energy. You have to move. Feminine energy is fluid, okay? Which means not only in your thoughts and your energy, but your body energy. Your body needs to move. Your body needs to be in a flow. It needs to be able to get in a flow. You don't have to have rhythm. You don't have to know how to dance. It's a totally different thing. Your body simply needs to move. Now, as women, we hold our trauma, stress, all in our hips, right? So moving the hips is important, but also the shoulders, the spine, and arms, all of that when you move. And ideally, you want to find music or a rhythm that you can move rhythmically to. And I might put a playlist of a variety of songs that I use because depending on my mood, depending on what's going on in my life, depending where I am in my goddess cycle, right, will determine what music moves me and how my body wants to move. So during the segment where I'm actually bleeding, I want to move very minimally. Usually the week before, it go either way. I can wanting to move faster. Music could be, more of a rage, or solemn, and I just want to move and in a kind of circular motion while laying down. Right. Usually during that time, I want to be more supported. So I typically do something laying down. Those other 2 weeks, though, I could be feeling very sexy, very empowered. Even if I'm angry and I use a plastic bat to just like beat on the bed, on a pillow, on the floor while I move, it releases the energy. So when you're doing a movement flow, you want to make sure that you include hip circles, shoulder rolls, spinal waves, and arm moves. And I usually let my mind go. You want to do this for at least one song, right? Songs are now pretty short. So, like for 3 minutes or so, you want to let the music play and get into just the movement. Do whatever. And if you have to go in a room and close the door because you don't want anybody to see you, then do that. But you need to move. And ideally, you need to move every day. When you move, right, and you get into a flow. So let's start with the hip circles. And you go in one direction and then the other direction. And while you're moving your hips, move your arms. Now, I am going to be posting this particular training as an intro to some other platforms. So I'm not going to play music because every platform has, their own music guidelines. But I will put in a playlist. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. All right. So start moving. Okay. We are going to clock the time and we're going to just move for 3 minutes. You're just going to move your body and however it is your body wants to move. So even if you're shy and you're new and just simply swaying back and forth is all you can do, all you want to do, that is completely okay. Let your arms go. Make sure you're moving the spine. Do your hip circles in the opposite direction. You can even do arm circles, okay, forward and back. And you want to be in a flow. Now, when you're in a flow, this actually connects you to your divine feminine energy, which opens you up for manifestation. The more we are in the flow, And if you can do this in like your front yard, backyard, in grass where your feet are planted in the grass, connects you to the earth, it grounds you, and it helps to open you up. In that openness, you become tuned in, tapped in, turned on to your divine feminine energy. It makes manifesting easier. It makes calling in whatever you want easier. This is one of my most used techniques when I have been working to call something in and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, or I find myself trying to figure out the how. I move, I turn music on, and I dance. And there have been days in my life where I spent most of my day just in movement. I go from the tub to movement, from movement to the tub, from because the water, especially salt water, magnesium, that water helps you connect as well. So, especially for me, that is one of my clarity exercises. It allows me to focus way more than not. So, I move, and I can move all day because when I'm in movement, my mind clears. We've got one more minute. My mind clears. I'm not thinking about the how. I'm not trying. I'm just in the flow. And 99.9% of the time, whatever I'm calling in shows up, or at least rears its head within 24 hours of my movement release, because it just allows me to get in alignment with my own divine energy. You don't ever have to be necessarily in the frequency of the specific thing, situation, or what have you that you're trying to manifest. You just need to be in a receptive mode. Your divine feminine energy is a receptive mode. So you can be in a receptive mode because of anything, right? You could just be with friends, you could be out dancing, you could be having a good time, listening to a good book, anything that's making you feel delicious, right? Delicious is, okay, let's slow it down, come to a stop. But deliciousness is how I describe what it is like for me to be at the peak of my divine feminine energy. Like, stuff can feel good, but when it's like delicious, when it's delicious in my mouth, on my tongue, when I can feel the excitement in my body, kind of a turn on, but not the same type of a sexual arousal. But there's a different sensation, like in my breast and in my skin is more flush. Like, I just know it's like when you know you look really good, right? um there's a certain turn on that you have. So it's that type of energy. That's how I know. And that's how I know that, okay, I still got more to go, because I feel good. And usually when I feel good, I tend to live in the question, and this is from other manifesting trainings, but living in the question is, how can it get any better than this? Whether it's good or it's bad, I'm always asking, how can it get any better than this? Because I leave it open and I allow for the universe to respond. And when you're in that feminine flow and you're living in the question, right? You don't shut anything off. The possibilities are endless, and it doesn't always come to you the way that you think it's going to come to you. But that's also why you need to be in the flow, in your breath and in your body. You need to be present in your body and less in your mind, right? Your feminine energy and your frequency, that is intuitive. So less in your mind, more in your heart and your womb and your body, so that you can be open to all the possibilities, calling in what it is that you want, creating what it is that you desire. So at the end of your flow movement, you can pick any affirmation that resonates with you, right? Um, so sometimes I use like, I release stagnation and I'm open to flow. Just really simple, especially if I've had a week where I was less in tune. I was in confrontation with someone because, nobody's perfect. There are a lot of you that go to work and people at work are assholes, right? And so you tend to lose it or you tend to spiral. Like we all do those types of things in our own environment. And so just releasing stagnation, setting the intention to release stagnation, the more connected you are to your divine feminine energy, the if you think of it like a line, right? And so the more you're in your divine feminine energy, you kind of go up. And when you are out and you are being more aggressive, and there's always a time. So let me just go back for a second and say that we all have feminine and masculine energy, and we all should be using both. Our dominant frequency as women should be our divine feminine energy, because that is where our creation is, right? But then after you have birthed an idea, after you have called to you what you want, there's going to come a time when you need to put shit into motion, when you need to get people moving, when you need to inspire people to do what they need to do. That's that masculine energy that comes up, because now you are directing, and now you are, pushing things forward. Okay. So there is always a time and a place. And I will be doing another class probably in the next 2 months on creating a synergy between your feminine and masculine energy, because you need to know when to use both. When shit needs to be done, that's not always the time to lean back. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. If your house needs to be clean and there needs to be reconstruction and blah, 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 you need to take action and not lean back into your feminine energy. So there's a time and a place. When you are in that feminine energy, though, and you are operating from it, you can call in and you can create and you can do whatever it is that needs to be done. And it's a lot easier because you don't have to chase, right? For us, we never have to chase what it is. We are creators. So the way that you create, the way that you call in, the way that you start living your desires is all connected to your feminine energy. If you get it through your masculine energy, it is harder to keep when you are finally ready to relax and remember who you are. Because what you had to do to get it is out of alignment with the essence of who you are. So I had a really successful credit repair and wealth building business at one time. I fucking hated it. But the money was absurd. Okay. And I was living how I wanted to live. I did a lot of things. I got a lot of things my kids had. And I hated it. I hated talking to the people. Like, I was fucking miserable. And so to maintain that, I would have had to stay in an energy that I didn't want to be in. Because the more that I said, no, this is not who I am, and the more that I was who I am, right? I was starting to be me and remember who I was. The frequency that I built that in was disgusting. And the clients that I called in, although they were a match for the vibration I was at that time, I couldn't sustain them. I couldn't even talk to them. And as I transitioned out of that company, I literally had to hire people to deal with those final clients. Like I couldn't even hold conversations. The frequency was just so off for me. So when you're building things in that masculine energy, in order to keep it, to maintain it, and to scale it, you have to keep that frequency. Now, I could very well build the same business from a feminine frequency. The difference is how you approach things, your policies, what you do, et cetera, et cetera. It just wasn't a field that I wanted to be in. And I wanted to work exclusively with women. And so I started, I transitioned that way. There's a lot of women on the internet right now talking about, I'm rebuilding my business, through divine feminine energy, right? I'm doing business the feminine way. How we see business, how we build business, how we build credit, how we make financial moves have all been based on divine masculine energy, because that's what is taught, right? That's what we're ruled by in this society. So later on this week, I'm starting the series, Feminine Finances. And so, yes, the basic skills, and actually all of that I learned about fixing your credit, building, opening LLCs, building trust structures, all of that I'm going to be sharing. So you guys will have access to all that information, including downloads and templates, if that's what you're interested in. But I will be starting by sharing the difference and how you make decisions, because we are very, very much trained to make decisions from masculine energy. So moving on, your feminine energy thrives in movement and breath. Okay. So you need to let your body be a sacred instrument of healing. Think of your body as an altar. Your body is what is only part of you, right? You are a spiritual being. You're having a human experience. A portion of you is channeled into this human vehicle, this physical vehicle. You are also having other experiences as well. However, you're still a spiritual being. And if you start to look at this body, this vehicle, as an altar where you can come to and have this amazing physical experience, you will start to treat your body different. You will eat different. You will move more. I've had 8 children. Well, I've had 9, but I have 8 children. And it wasn't until I really started doing feminine energy work that I started expressing a high level of gratitude for my body and the work that it did to carry 9 children to term with no issues, all vaginal births. Like it has done some of the most amazing things, right? Over and over and over again. And it still serves me till this day. So when I start looking at my body as an altar and, treating it as such, and, you put great gas in good cars, the food that I was giving it, because for a while I got away from, being a raw foodist or what have you, but how I feed myself, how I move my body, how I talk to my body, how I talk about my body, and how I communicate with my body. Everything has its own frequency. Everything has its own consciousness. So I am channeled into this vehicle, but this vehicle itself, just like my car, has its own consciousness. So I talk to my body to find out, how does she want to move? What does she want to eat? I would prefer if I had less of this or more of that, right? Because when I was stressed out in a toxic relationship, like my boobs went flat, like they were fucking pancakes. You could have folded them up and put them in a bra, which is basically what I was doing. Now, when I started transitioning and living more in my feminine energy, and my body started to change as a result of that, or change back, I should say, even my first husband, he saw me and said, "Did you have a boob job?" I was like, "Absolutely not." My body just started to respond. We started to communicate, and I started to love her. She started to love me. But we have that, and then I could create and turn her and shape her into what I wanted her to look like. Now, some of that shaping and some of that physical manifestation, um, not all of it is perfect, right? You don't get it right the first time. And I was still dealing with trauma. So I used to be pretty thin on a regular, even after having all the children. But I wanted to gain weight. I wanted to hold more weight because I was always most comfortable when I was pregnant. And my average pregnancy weight was about 150 pounds. So when I started talking to my body, I was like, listen, I was so comfortable with my body at 150 pounds, and that's what I was calling in. And sure as hell, I became 155 pounds. A lot of that was in my stomach. So I was not as specific as I should have been, wanted to be, and learning how, my body and I needed to communicate. So now I'm experimenting with different conversations. Like I really don't mind my thighs, my butt, my boobs, all that, but I want less stomach and thinner arms. So I followed my feminine intuition. I found some information about a workout. I expanded on that, and literally, like shirts that I could not button, I was, because of my stomach, I was able to button, right? I had space in the arms. So I was like, this is working. So this is how I communicate with my body. Now you learn that with everything is going to be trial and error. But when you are in that feminine space and you realize that you are connected and you are the creatress of, your body, your environment, even the people around you, like you have called them into you. If you don't like them, if they are not behaving in a way that is pleasurable for you, you can dismiss them. But you do it through being tapped in to who you are and your feminine energy. So I want to talk about energetic clearing. It's a good transition into the next thing. So what happens is you get into your feminine energy and you realize like, oh, like I said, I hated that business now, right? The relationship I had was trash. I had friends that, although good people, where they resonated, what they resonated with, uh, was not on the path of where I was going. Okay. So I had to start getting rid of people and things and removing myself. And, I was always, if you're new to things, like stop watching television, stop watching the news, cultivate and really curate like what it is you are going to listen to music wise, um, movies, books. You have to do all that if you're new. If you are kind of already on that spiritual path, usually those are the first things that we kind of sort through, right? But I started doing cord cuttings. I had to start releasing belief patterns from my ancestral line, and our ancestral line is actually our maternal line, not our father's line. They contribute very little compared to what our mothers contribute. Okay. So releasing beliefs. A lot of that can be done through shadow work. I put together a workbook called Healing Your Worthiness Womb, um, that you can get, I think, like inside of university, on the left hand side at the bottom, there's some links, and you can link to Amazon. And actually, I'm going to start stocking up my own books so that you can order directly from me. But right now, you can get it from Amazon, and it's a workbook. It's a nice thick workbook, but I love it because it is literally made from my own journals where I was writing and going through this process. It helped me release some belief patterns. It helped me determine who I needed to cut cords with, um, who I needed to return, do a energy return to, right? Return to sender energy type of ritual. And um, it's not always nice. It doesn't always feel good, only because that's what we've been told, right? And how it's supposed to be. I literally, till this day, I used to cut cords. Now I've learned a new technique. And so I completely delete and destroy my relationship with all my kids, everyone that one of my husbands, my parents, my work, all of my friends, everything. Either right before I go to sleep or right when I wake up. I destroy everything that was, because in the new day, it gives me the opportunity to be open to the possibilities of something different and something new. When I have relationship issues with my children, I just continuously destroy the existing relationship until I start to get one that is pleasing to myself and my situation. And they are always happier as a result as well. Everywhere where I feel obligated or someone has gotten under the radar, I destroy completely those relationships. Including your business, even your job, the people that you work with, like all of those things. We often carry energy that is simply not ours. Okay. And this is why I do it. I think it's said that 99% of what we think and what we feel is not ours. Like everybody is a natural empath and we don't even know it. Okay. So by destroying the relationship and by returning energy that is not yours back to whomever it came from, you don't even really have to figure out where the fuck it came from. You just need to send it back. So when you're feeling emotions that are overwhelming or stressful or what have you, I always ask, whose is this? Now, if it's mine, I will start to feel light. Like, okay, this is mine. Let me deal with this and where it came from or why I think this, et cetera, et cetera. If it's not mine, I can feel that as well. It's a different feeling. Okay, I didn't lighten up. So that means that my acknowledgement or my awareness of it did not move it. So it belongs to someone else. And then I say, well, okay, well, whatever this is, wherever it's come from, I'm returning it to sender with consciousness. So they know they have stuff to deal with and they know I don't want it. And I simply return it. I didn't know how important this was. I had not taught it to my children. And my oldest daughter, this is probably 10, 15 years ago, she was probably in her early 20s. And we were driving And I noticed the energy of a woman who was driving next to me. Like I felt her energy was really, really strong. So I turned to look at her. She was in the car crying. And then she passed us. And then my daughter was like, starts to cry. And she's like, oh my God, I have the worst headache. Like she had a migraine that she could not manage. And I'm driving, right? And she's in the passenger seat and she's bawling like out of nowhere suddenly. And I was like, okay, hold my hand. And I said, well, ask right now, whose energy is this? And she did. And I said, well, now return it to sender with consciousness. She did a return to sender, and within seconds, just like it came on, it was gone. And I said, okay, now ask where'd it come from? And she was like, there was a car that passed. So young children, it happens to even more frequently. My grandchildren, we now go through these exercises. Whose is it? Because some 1 minute they're fine, the next minute they're not. Right. So my oldest granddaughter has the ability to put her energy out there, and the younger grandchildren, because they love her, they want to heal her, they take that on and then they're acting out all of her emotions. So remember that 99% of what you are feeling and what you are thinking are not your own thoughts. They're not your own feelings until you start to practice this exercise. And you need to start sending shit back to where it belongs. And if it is yours, write it down. If you need help going through it, try the workbook, or you can always book a session with me if you have a therapist, whatever it is. But acknowledging it, identifying it, dealing with it lightens your load. It makes your connection to your divine feminine energy easier. Once you start going through this process, you will be able to process a lot of this on your own. Because when you're living in that divine feminine energy, you're also tuned into your intuition, right? That's woman's intuition. Like we know that we know that we know, regardless. We know when something's wrong with our baby. We know when there's some kind of emergency. We can look at our friends and be like, oh my God, what happened? We know. And so when we start really getting into that, and on a grander scale, not just what is shown to us through television, not through, the statement that people throw around, loosely. But when you start living it, then you know, and you can clear it. And as you clear it, you know who it came from, why it happened. You heal yourself, forgive them. And even if you're emotional in it, get in the shower or do some dance and reconnect and release. You're back in the flow. So healing and tapping into that feminine energy. And I'm trying to stay on task, because you all who, if you're watching this, these are supposed to be our sessions, and I don't even know what I'm going to do when lots of people start showing up live, because I try to plan this so that I can stay within an hour and then use additional time if necessary for Q&A. But anyway, um, and I'm checking my notes. So yes, to stay on task. So we often carry energy that isn't ours, but some of that energy is not just present people, right? It can be ancestral patterns. It can be partner imprints. So like if you were in a relationship with this person, okay, so it's a different type of imprint if you have with friendships, right? Someone you've never been physically intimate with. The partner imprints where you have been physically intimate with that person, especially if that person is a male and he's ejaculating into you, right? Those 22, 23 strands of DNA that information is absorbed by your body. That's why sometimes you are with someone and you start thinking like them and acting like them and believing some of the same nonsense and bullshit that they believe until you tap into your feminine energy and the goddess is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, leave this person alone. They will leave imprints. And it can take a while for you to realize and remove all of them. Right? I was in a relationship with someone who was very afraid of life. And I remember my ex-husband, my first husband, telling me, like, you were the most fearless woman I have ever met in my life. Like, you would do shit and not know how it was going to work out. Like, you just knew source had you were doing it. And just because by the mere fact that you were there with that intention, it would happen. And he was referring to, I was young and I don't even think I was 20 yet, selling Mary Kay. So he used to drive me to all my appointments and wait for me. And so I would take my little Mary Kay bags and I would take a bag with all of the products in it that I intended to sell. And then I would go in, I would do my spiel, and then they would buy whatever it was. They would buy. Okay, thanks. They would buy like everything in the bag. And the women would be like, how did you know? And sometimes I'd put perfume in there, but I was really tapped into my feminine energy, right? And my intuition. And every once in a while, like, oh, I only have enough money for this, that, and the other. And I may have to bring like one or two things back to the car. But he watched me do that. And it was my natural state of being. It wasn't like I had read a book or saw a video. It was simply who I was. Oh, I'm going to sell this. I used to work for the EPA. We had a contract on a specific contract. This is my one of my only jobs as an adult. Didn't even last a year, but the contract, the office for that contract was in the Pentagon, right? So I would get to this job and I had to take this job because my mom, and I'm telling you, I was 18 or 19 because I had just graduated high school. My mom was like, you have to get a job. You need to know what it's like for everybody else. So I got the job. I'm in the Pentagon, and on my lunch break, there's shops and stuff in the Pentagon. And I'm downstairs walking around. And then I just decided, well, I'm going to buy some stuff. I might as well make these people pay for it. And that was my terminology at the time. So I would go in, I would introduce myself, I would then book appointments for my lunch hour with all the women in the shop. And then I would buy what I wanted to buy. And lo and behold, I would always sell twice that much to the group of women that I had booked in that shop. I always sold twice as much because with Mary Kay, you made 50% of what you sold, right? So I need to sell twice as much to cover everything that I actually bought in profit. Eventually, I when the contract was over, I left because I made more money on my lunch break than I did being there like all day long. So tapping into your feminine energy, tapping into that intuition changes your life. How you live changes. What you count on, what you take into consideration. I never, ever in that moment think I couldn't have anything. I could have it. Not only did I think I could have it all, I could point out who was going to pay for it. I already knew where the money was before I spent it or where it was coming back from. So it was like I was living that, what I spent, I got back twofold. And that was before, now mind you, I didn't listen back then to like Zig Ziglar and Les Brown. So the motivation and sales was kind of thing, but I combined that with my energy. And literally I'd be on the train and other young women would be like, what do you do? You're dressed so nice, blah, blah, blah. And I was just pulling people in. Here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. And I was selling like crazy. Not because I was using the standardized sales pitch, not because I was doing it the Zig Ziglar way or the Les Brown way. I was leaning into, I guess the phrase wasn't necessarily coined back then, but a bad bitch energy, right? Like, I am a goddess. This is what I'm doing, and this is how it works for me. When you're in your feminine energy, you get to decide how things work for you. So, I'll give you another example and then I'll move on. But in the idea of deciding how things work for you, I had a mailing list of less than 1,000 people, but I made about $500 a day. So when the whole world was running around talking about, you need to build a mailing list, all your money's in the mailing list, you need to have all these emails and blah, 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 blah. I didn't have all those emails. I just decided how much money I wanted to make every time I sent out an email. And that is what happened because I decided that is how this structure works for me. Right? I didn't have a mentor at the time. I had just gotten rid of my coach because it was a guy, and I was transitioning out of like all of that masculine energy bullshit. And I went through a lot learning that, these men have no idea what the fuck they're talking about as coaches. I was having a really, really rough time at one point in my life. And this coach said to me, why don't you just put all your kids up for adoption and then you can grind it out without being worried about your kids and make all the money and then go back and get this. That motherfucker is still, he's on TikTok right now. Coaching people. Absolutely absurd. Okay, back to my notes to keep me on track. So if you imagine like a waterfall of like violet light moving through your body, this is a technique that helps you wash away break cords and disconnect. Okay, so imagine a waterfall of violet light, and it's just moving down from your top of your head through your body. And as this violet light is coming through, it is literally washing away all your tension, your expectations, and your fear. And just imagine and then say to yourself, anything that is not yours or anything that is not mine is now dissolving. It is excellent to do this in the shower, right? Anything that is not mine is now dissolving. Something else that I do is that I'll say any energies that I have picked up throughout the day that are not mine, that do not serve my highest good, I wash away now. Get rid of it. Let it go. If you are interested in more energy work, look into those classes. And I do have some more of those coming out, more modules to those coming out. I'm checking the time and we've only got about 10 minutes. So I am keeping to my time restraint, but I am going to go through all the notes. So a feminine frequency activation. This usually is 20 minutes. And if you spend 20 minutes in meditation, doing that activating breath that we started with, right? Breathing into the womb and the heart, and then releasing. Do that to center yourself, to get focused, and then meditate. At the end of your meditations, if you imagine yourself receiving a gift or a symbol of your feminine essence, when you come out of that meditation, you can send me a message and tell me what it was. You can look it up. Sometimes you're going to know what it is, but you need about 20 minutes of meditation. When you're done, ask for your gift, right? Whatever that is, that thing is what is going to help you connect to your feminine energy, whatever it is. And it may not make sense at the time, but it will eventually. You have to trust that. Now, sometimes, and I went through a phase where every meditation I asked for a gift because I felt so disconnected. And that's okay too. Make sure that you are journaling, right? In my meditation, I typically walk myself through like a temple, right? So I imagine myself at the door of this divine feminine temple. Sometimes that door looks like a vagina. Sometimes the whole thing looks like a pyramid. Whatever it is that my mind conjures up, I just go with, right? And then I enter and I spend my meditative time walking through this temple and being in awe at its beauty and the things that I see in it. Sometimes there's running water in there. Sometimes there's like a whole garden and forest and shit like that. Sometimes it's just laughing children and people who are really, really happy, etc. So I go all the way through till I get to the exit door. And once I'm at the door, before I exit, I ask divine feminine energy for my gift. And it is bestowed on me in many different ways. And then I exit with it and I come out of my meditation. So try that. If you guys decide that you'd like for me to do a guided meditation of that, I most certainly will. And I'll post it with this. So optional things that you can use are like your rose quartz and moonstones. So sometimes when I'm in meditation, I lay down and I put the rose quartz or the moonstone, like I put one on my heart, one on my womb. Prior to that meditation, I use my essential, it's not an essential oil. I use my spiritual oil called Iconic. And I put that in my spiritual baths. I put that on underneath my perfume. All of my self-love rituals, right? All of my rose quartz crystals and any of the clear quartz that I put with it to magnify it. Anytime I need favor, anytime I need to be more magnetic, anytime I want a confidence boost, magnetism, right? Iconic, I'm sorry, makes you magnetic. Like the magnetism that I get before I do videos, there's a difference. I could scroll through my TikTok page right now and tell you which videos that I put Iconic on before I recorded the video. Okay. So, and this time last year, because I made it for the first time this time last year. So now we're moving into, we're going to do the Taurus new moon is where the 2025 batch will be made. So if you don't know, remember that what is that? Like, oh, you better come get you some. They say, what is that? They say chicken salad. Like Iconic. Go to Lux and Light. Like you're gonna want that. And I used it excessively. So I used about 4 bottles over the course of 2024, right? About 4 bottles. But once I make it, that's all I have. That's why I'm saying that. So once I make it, it's because it's charged under this moon. I am not going to go into all that, but iconic. Okay. If you can't use iconic, you can also use like Lang Lang, Rose, or Jasmine. Make sure you have those in a carrier oil. Rub those on the bottom of your feet. Rub them all over your body when you are doing self-love work, when you are doing feminine divine energy work. Like those oils carry the frequency that will help you tap into that. If you listen to those who do light language, that will help you tap into your feminine energy. You have the ability. You just have to remember. So the feminine frequency is like a sacred pulse. It's soft, but it's fierce. It's receptive, but it's powerful. It is pleasure, it is intuition, and it is creation. All of those things you get in that iconic oil. Using the essential oils, like just as a daily ritual, if you're putting them on, if you're putting on iconic, recite these affirmations. Like, I am safe in my body. My pleasure is my power. And I radiate magnetic feminine energy. So you have to be on a hunt for what is pleasurable to you. I'm going to have to do a whole other video, and I found an amazing creator on TikTok who talks a lot about women, right? And the word whore. She was talking about bitch the other day, and I might even find it and put it in here because, you know, there was the goddess bitch, and it didn't have a negative connotation, right? It was the expression of great goddess power, and patriarchy demonized it. Priestesses were highly intuitive and tuned in, turned on, tapped into their feminine energy, and wealthy, the powerful, and the elite paid handsomely to come into the temple and lay with the priestess. Because by him being with her intimately, he immediately gained some of her protection. And in that time, she shared with him what he needed to do to conquer, to rule, to win. That is how he got the protection to go out and make the moves. That is how he was guided to make the fucking moves. Patriarchy demonized it because they tried to save it all, you know, for themselves. So us, listen, we have a spot on our bodies that is for nothing more than pleasure. Our lives should revolve around what is pleasurable for us. When women are safe and happy and pleasured, their ability to create anything and everything and protect and be intuitive is off the chain. It's almost like you have superpowers that they only depict on television. The problem is when you live in a patriarchal society like this, and you have to go to work and you have to engage with all of these, you know, lower frequency people, situations, and things, it's hard to live in that consistently. But that's what you need to be thriving for. And as more and more of us do this, then we can create places to live that amplify this energy. So even when we go out solo, we stay strong. But you've got to chase what, and I don't even want to say chase, but you need to discover what is pleasurable for you, what makes you feel good. That is going to tap you into your feminine energy. I'm also going to give you some journaling and integration, right? So the first journal prompt is, what part of me came alive today, right? What is it that was said or done or in the movement that made you feel alive? What excited you? Number two, how does my feminine energy want to move through the world? How do you want to move through the world? How do you want to be seen? Remember, everything has consciousness. So ask your feminine energy, how do you want to move through the world? Everybody's not going to want to move through the world the way I want to move through the world. Trust your intuition. Trust what your body is saying. Trust what your inner goddess is saying to you. Our third prompt is, what would change if I truly lived in this frequency? Journal that out. Figure it out. What about your life would be different? How would your life be different? Why, and there's no reason that it can't be that. And you may want to start with baby steps. And if you haven't done quantum delusion, go do that course and go through it, because it's going to help you figure out who her is. Now, for some, her is, a stepping stone to the ultimate goddess version of themselves. But you could also just be, you are a goddess at whatever level, at whatever point, as you move through your elevation, you are still a goddess at every single level. So think about it. Journal about it. Make a list of 5 things that make you feel delicious, like things that are totally delicious to you, that excite all of your senses. And I'll share one of mine, and it's bubbles. Oh, listen, I have so many bubble machines, so many bubble guns. It tickles my fucking soul to lay in the grass on a warm day and shoot bubbles and watch them float everywhere. There's like rainbows everywhere. Like it's so majestic for me. I love it. And if I'm having a shit day, best believe I'm blowing some bubbles. I'm blowing bubbles, I'm buying balloons. And it was like, when you're upset, you tend to do childlike things. When I upset, I'm outside of my frequency. So I put on music and I dance, I blow bubbles, I color, sometimes I paint my body, I put rhinestones all over my body. I do the things that make me feel good. And of course, there are some others that are more complicated or have more depth, but those things can always be done. And I have made sure that the people around me know that. So if I'm struggling, what do? You better show up with you go to the fucking dollar store and get me bubbles and some balloons and some cotton candy and fucking coloring book and some crayons, right? Regardless of where I am in this country. You can help me shift, right? Because I'm training the people in my life to support who I am and to understand that it benefits them for me to be in my feminine energy. Buy me a gift, lots of flowers, like all of those things. So I'm a little over, but I want you to also reflect on, what did you feel and what activated within you during this session? What got activated? If you felt it in a certain part of your body. And I want you to affirm that this energy is now accessible to you at all times. Okay, you could listen to this over and over again. And don't be afraid to do that. Find things that make you feel good and indulge, despite the quote unquote society norm or what they say. Now, if what you want to indulge in is sex, you're gonna have to take a different class and we'll talk about that, because stay focused. But sexual promiscuity, if I said that correctly, is actually more our nature than it is the male nature. Okay, because men had to be chosen. Women, because of our menstrual cycle, the week that we are ovulating naturally makes us promiscuous in terms of survival of the fittest. If we know, our bodies know, and intuitively we know, the reason that we are very, very turned on and feeling more sexy and um, desiring intimacy on that level during ovulation is because that is what expands the world, right? That's what keeps our species alive. And so, in the concept of survival of the fittest, the more partners that we mate with during that week gives our body gives our body because okay, so you want to mate with, we intuitively, although it's been suppressed, we intuitively want to mate with lots of men, right? Because they all have different qualities of sperm. Now, how this plays in is that, the egg, I think, is like 10 times at least larger than the sperm. And although there is that theory out there that, oh, they're swimmers, the strongest one makes it to the egg, that's not true. A lot of sperm can make it to the egg. She's going to pick the egg because she has consciousness. She literally picks, of the ones who have made it close, which one she's going to let in. This is biology. This has been proven. You can look this up. So, to go back to my point of during the week of ovulation, it is more natural for us to be mating with a lot of different men because we're getting all the different sperm in so that our beautiful eggs have the pick of the litter, right? We want to see this one's better, this one's a better match, this one's a better match. If you're only sleeping with that one dude and there's only one type of sperm, then we're really just like, okay, this one's got the full, 23 strands, we'll take it. Because the egg is alive. Sperm is not alive. It actually moves and is the reason that it's able to propel itself, right, and be mobile is because of the DNA that is linked to it that male got from his mother. So anyway, and I do talk about that more in one of my other courses. And I am going to be opening this year. I'm opening all the courses up. So typically, if you were in a coaching program with me, then you got a selection of classes about living as a cortisone, using sex for manifestation, um, things like that. Uh, Embodying more power through your pussy. Those classes and those trainings were exclusive for that. I'm actually going to be opening them up one by one, updating them to the community so that everyone has access to them. So I'm going to close out this training for today. May your body be your temple, your heart, your compass, and your frequency, your greatest power. I love you guys. You have questions, post them. This will get posted into our under feminine frequency this evening, and you can watch the replays, post questions, and I will see you in our next training. I'm doing another training Thursday, and that is on feminine finance. Bye for now.